Hey guys, welcome to New Society, and I am your host, Carlo Jean-Michel. With me is my co-host, Jordan Peterson, and we have a special guest host today.
Hi, I'm Jonathan.
All right. So we just finished watching a LGBTQ plus short film, which is also the topic of today's episode. So we're going to dive right in. So we watched this the last time.
We did, and I had forgotten most of it, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like, every episode we focus on what I call a societal deformity. And again, the definition is deeply rooted constructs embedded in our society that negate our success and set us up for failure. And I feel like, as far as LGBTQ plus, that is a beautiful thing. That obviously has propelled us forward decades, which is incredible. And I love how it's just a symbol from my perspective, for the alternative lifestyle. You know what I mean? And I love that there are so many today, as confusing as they are to people who don't know a thing about them. I love that there are so many because it allows you to find your niche, you know? I pronounce it niche, maybe it's niche, I don't know. But
niche.
Yeah. And let's see, there's L, lesbian, G, gay, B, bisexual, T, transgendered, Q, queer, and then plus for everything else.
I thought the Q was questioning. So there you go.
See? It could be both.
Great question.
It could be, and I should look this up. Feel free to comment below. But I think it's brilliant, and I think that, you know, for everyone who's exploring, everyone who's searching, everyone who feels like they already know where they fit, to find a culture or a subculture where, like, oh my god, these are my people. These are literally my people. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I fit, this is where I belong. Like, there's something, it's just freeing and, you know, uninhibited about just being, you know, just finding where you feel like you belong. I think it's incredible. And Jordan and I were talking earlier about, I'm on the final season of Madam Secretary on Netflix. I don't know
We're in the final season already?
Yeah, I'm on.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's so good.
It's really good, yeah.
I've been binge watching it for the last, like, I don't know, month and a half now. And so not necessarily binge watching it, but, you know, watching. And in one of the seasons there was a character who was at the National War College, and he was in the military he was Ukrainian. And so he was there in the US for his education and whatnot, and he was being sent home to be prosecuted for rumors about homosexuality. And the penalty is death. So he's gonna be on trial, you know, and it wasn't gonna go well for him. So one of his friends went to their professor and was like, can you please help me? Because, you know, he's very proud, he may not listen to me, and if he goes home, he will be killed. And so they had an intervention, and they talked to him, and he snapped at the classmate, and he kind of snapped at the professor, but he, like, caught himself because he has the utmost respect for him. And then all of a sudden, he just, like, dropped it. Because at first he was like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, you're out of your mind. I'm not anything, I'm a soldier. Like, why are we having this discussion? This is ridiculous. Like, I'll go home and I'll tell them that. Like he didn't even get into discussion about it. He was like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going home. End of discussion. So, however long later, the day that he was supposed to report to his commanding officer, who was going to set up the arrangements and whatnot, he basically was like, you should talk to him. He's a good man. He'll hear you out. And he was like, thank you. I will. And the whole time I'm like, all of a sudden you're fine. All of a sudden you accept everything. You were like a bull in a china shop. Like the last scene that we had this discussion. Like what? Like there's no way. And sure enough, the professor kind of like trusted his instincts, and all of a sudden he's like rushing to the dorm to try to, you know, catch him beforehand because he has a fear. And sure enough, he's halfway up the stairs, I think it was, and he heard a gunshot, and he killed himself.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And from my perspective, it's because he had already made up his mind. He's like, I'm not gonna put the shame on my family. I'll deny it until the very end. He's like, I'm dead anyway.
Yeah.
He's like, I might as well do it now. And it blows my mind, you know, like he was mystified. He was like, this still happens? This still goes on? And I'm like, yeah, in a lot of parts of the world. And it's just, with that said, I love the LGBTQ plus. Like, I love it. Like, for that reason, if nothing else, like, just because it's such a safe haven for so many people. It's such a beacon, a symbol of, you know, we're here.
Yeah.
You know, like seek us, and you'll be accepted without question. And it's brilliant. Rant over.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. I wish there was a better term. It would not be turned into a derogatory term, so that people didn't need to find a niche little name for them. And we just had one inclusive community. I do feel like the alphabet soup of letters becomes a bit much, and you really start saying, well, you're part of that group of this sub-community already, and people just start finding themselves in a hole again by themselves because they've been cut down into such a small little group.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was this woman who worked at my laundromat a couple blocks over, and she felt like a huge victim of that. She felt like she didn't belong. She felt like she didn't belong with gays. She didn't belong with lesbians. With lesbians, she felt like even with transgendered people, she felt like the odd woman out. And I remember we having a conversation where she felt like she was being persecuted. And, or excuse me, that might be a strong word. She felt like she felt like she had an interaction at a local supermarket where she felt like she was a victim of prejudice. And so, first of all, it took her forever to warm up to me. You know me, people in service, you're there to make my life easier. So I go to the laundromat and you're working, I say, hey, how are you? I'd say to everyone who's working, and then the first, I'd say half dozen times, she was just just so confused, I am, this is not an exaggeration, she just glared at me.
Like, why are you talking to me?
But when it came to women, she was super chatty, you know, hey, how are you? Good to see you, da 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 da. And you know me, I'm like, whatever. I read the situation, I immediately knew what was going on, I'm like, I get it. And then finally, after about a year, she finally, you know, I'd be
It took her that long.
Like, hey, how are you? And she said that, you know, over time, she was like, you know, good, how are you, and whatever. And then, come to find out, she confirmed what I figured, which was that she was just the victim of a lot of negativity, a lot of cruelty when it came to men. And, you know, and then of course talking about just the LGBTQ plus community, she was just like, yeah, I don't fit there either. And so fast forward, she's talking about this time where she was grocery shopping and she felt like someone had discriminated against her. So she reached out to the manager of the place and she was like, listen, you know, this is what happened, whatnot. And the guy was like, sir, you're a man. And then hung up the phone. And in that conversation, she confesses, I want to say that she definitely had a master's in sociology, but possibly even a PhD. She was educated, really well educated, and I was so impressed with it. And she was just like, yeah, she's like, I don't care how angry you are at me. I have a right to feel comfortable, and if I'm not, and I'm reaching out to you because one of your employees left me feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
Why would that be your reaction? But the whole time she's talking, I'm so elated by the entire situation, only because this is what she's upset about. And I love that she's able to leave her house every single day identifying as a woman, as a female, you know what I mean? And it's okay, she's able to go to work, and I think it's awful that she's ridiculed. I think it's awful the experience that she's had. I'm not, you know, brushing that to the side by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just happy that, wow, this is awesome.
Did she say how she identifies? Or why she didn't feel like she had identified in anything in the LGBT group?
It doesn't stand out in my memory if she did. And I feel awful about it. I also haven't seen her in like a year and a half, I think. So maybe she's moved, or she's moved on, or maybe she got a really great settlement. And she's good. But
She's living it up in her beach house right now.
Right.
She bought her own washing machine.
Right. But yeah, it was. I loved it because I was like, this is where we're at in the world. This is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not condoning what happened to you, and I'm not happy about it, obviously. But I think it's great that this is where we're at as a society. Like this is really cool, and I'm looking forward to. And I may have, I don't think I said that part to her because I didn't want to downplay like her frustration. However, I want to say that I'd like to think that I said something to the effect of, this is awesome. Like, this is definitely. It sounds like you have the situation handled, because honestly, it sounded like she did. Like she brought all these points, and like she brought statistics, and
Oh wow.
yeah.
So she'd been doing her homework. Interesting.
It was impressive. So that's the first part, and I feel like, the whole thing with every episode is that we've worked really, or at least I've worked really hard to almost highlight how it's been up until now. And then where I think it is, because what I love about it being called a new society is that we live in a new society. You know what I mean? And I feel like what's going on in the world right now is that we're in one big state of flux, where there's a huge shift taking place. The world's not the same anymore. It's a completely different place.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not what you and I had growing up. It's not, sure as hell not what our parents had growing up. And it's really cool when we have our conversations, because it's just confirmation that we live in a new society. And I feel like the challenge is people taking old ways of thinking in an old way of life and trying to apply it to a new set of circumstances, because they haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, makes sense, yes.
Yeah.
Things change, and then eventually other things change around it.
Mm-hmm.
But things don't all change together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it takes some time for beliefs, ideals, family values, whatever you want to call them, to catch up to
Mm-hmm.
what is modern time family values,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to what your great grandparents may have thought family values stood for.
Seriously. So, we talked a lot about the amazing aspects of the acronym, and what it represents, and it being a symbol of beacon, and so many amazing things. I also feel like there's another side of the coin, because it's challenging. Because I feel like now the challenge is, what about the people who don't identify with that?
And that's why I said we need something that, kind of like the word queer,
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't used so derogatorily, that encompassed a group of people that have an alternative sexual lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need to then say, well, you're gay, you're bi, you're transgendered, but you can be a transgendered person that's also like pansexual, and like, now what does that person do?
Mm-hmm.
We don't all just fit into one little box.
Exactly.
So even within our community,
There's
so
division. I feel that.
yeah, and then it creates tension between the group as well.
Absolutely.
Because I'm gay, no, and he's gay, and then you're like, no, I'm not gay, and I'm like, well, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
This is news to me. I thought that, and you're like, well, then you identify something different.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's always tension. If we just all said, I'm going to use the word queer, we're all queer, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
just different lifestyles
Absolutely.
in bed.
Absolutely. And I feel like, for some, like I said, for some people, I think they need it. I feel like for some people, especially living in parts of the country or parts of the world where they're so ostracized, like, to see those letters together and what it stands for is hope. You know what I mean? Like, someday I'll be in a part of the country or part of the world where I can be me. and I can express myself. And for them, it's like a bat signal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and
We need one in Hillcrest. Just
I feel like we have one in Hillcrest. I feel like the Hillcrest side is exactly that. Totally.
We definitely live in a great country where we can do that.
Oh, so great.
Even in a lot of other countries that we like to think are very forward or advanced, the United States has moved much quicker in certain areas. Gay marriage, you know, much faster than many European countries. You know, Massachusetts has had it for a long time, so individually we were able to do it, but the country finally came together and did it. And there's still countries in Europe that are still slow to pick this up, or were slow to pick it up. One of the things that bother me is PrEP. Here in the U.S., we've had PrEP for at least a decade, right?
Yeah, I'd say that.
The UK still doesn't give it out to all their LGBT community that need it. It's still kind of like a risk-based, and they're worried about the cost to their healthcare system. And I find that as like a slap in the face saying, well, we're not sure if you're worth the extra cost to protect your health. Like, that's my opinion of their interpretation.
Do you think it could have more to do with the fact that it's only been out for a decade, so they're not really sure what the health benefit, like the health risks versus rewards are?
There are lots of other drugs that have not been out nearly as long and are already being prescribed.
yeah, it should be at least an option. I feel.
Yeah, it's like, for them to say it's a cost thing, you know, yes, it is a very expensive drug, but for them to say, we don't know if this is worth spending the money on you. I feel like that's kind of like a, hey, we don't care enough about you. No,
Interesting.
this is going to be too expensive in the healthcare system. So, but in the U.S., we've had it for a long time, and insurance companies pay for it.
They sure do.
So, you know, we're even, especially if you're on, you know, covered California or any of the other states' health systems, you can get PrEP at no cost. You know, they'll cover the whole thing if you're an at-risk patient. So, the fact that we can do that for other countries, I think, really makes us shows that we're much better than a lot of other places to live.
Yeah, we're very progressive in our thinking and, you know, accommodating a lot of the advances that are taking place in our culture.
And we've done it very quickly. Usually something like this takes many, many years to get people accustomed to different ideas, different ways of life. And then saying, okay, now you have to accept our different way of life. You also have to start covering our needs for
Covering our
which are kind of like unique to us.
Yeah.
And for most people, they'd be like, no, like you need the next generation to finally like accept these new ideas. And we're moving, I would say, fairly quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
In how we're doing a lot of this, you know.
Absolutely.
To say we went from marriage rights to suddenly bathrooms are like open to any gender is a big step. A year before marriage, you couldn't even have that conversation.
Yeah.
And we've already had bathrooms with their signage changed.
Absolutely.
So,
I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, that's awesome.
yeah.
Like, I think, where were we? Oh, jeez, I think we were like the Hole. I know.
You should deny that.
I know. I agree. It was like, I've only been there twice, and it was the first time I was there, and I was like, this is really cool.
I think I will put a little bit more class to myself. The first time I saw it was at an airport.
Oh, the first time? Apparently we're going to edit this out then. And I haven't seen it in an airport. That's awesome.
I've seen it at an airport. I forget what city it was in. It may actually have been here in San Diego. Yeah, it was an airport. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
It was San Diego, right?
I don't remember what airport it was.
They were early to do it.
Were they?
Yeah.
It may have been here then. It would make sense if it was here.
But LA would make more sense because LA is more top. But I don't know which
Yeah, but
one
I avoid flying in and out of LA.
Yeah, tight.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Like, I'll do a layover somewhere else in the country to avoid flying into LA.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never done it, so I respect that. I just,
LA sucks.
yeah. I feel like I've heard those stories. There was another point that I wanted to mention. Talking about the U.S., how progressive we are. But yeah, I was having a conversation earlier. I mentioned so my biggest pet peeve is double standard. And I feel like the biggest double standard when it comes to, you know, sexuality and, you know, the freedom to just be you without ridicule, without judgment, without, you know, preconceived notions, without forcing a label on someone, is with women. You know, when they go out, let's say a girl goes out, you know, she's having like a girls' night out, everyone's having a blast, guys are hitting on them obviously, and maybe some girls are hitting on them. And instead of going home with a guy, one of the girls goes home with a girl. And they're like, oh, where'd so-and-so go? Oh, she went home with that girl who was hitting on her. And it's like, oh, classic. You know, like, no, but go on with your night. You know, everything's as normal. The next day, whatever. Maybe like a discussion will be had about it, but for the most part, it's not really like show-stopping.
Yeah, people just go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they just...
Other scenario, bunch of guys go out. Exact same thing applies, you know, they're hitting on girls, like whatever, maybe a couple of guys hit on them, maybe one of the guys goes home with a guy. Instantaneously, no way, I had no idea he was gay.
Yeah, why does he have to be one end of the spectrum or the other? Why
Exactly.
can't he... I believe, and I forget the name of the scale, where nobody falls on either end. Everybody's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Is it Kinsey?
I think it's a Kinsey scale, yeah.
Kinsey scale, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I believe that. I believe that nobody falls completely on one end of the spectrum.
100%. Absolutely.
So the thought that you have to be either at one end or the other, but only men, women can be anywhere on.
Mm-hmm.
Women
have
can do
to be
whatever
other.
they want,
Yeah.
per usual. Yeah.
What is it?
Continue. I said women can do whatever they want, per usual, but men, no.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because so many men have sexual fantasies about it
Mhm.
or enjoy it that it's okay. Then they want that to happen,
Mm-hmm.
so they're more accepting of it.
Mhm.
As
It's
opposed
definitely a
to
huge part
these
of it,
other
for
things
sure.
they fantasize about, so they're not
Mhm.
willing to accept it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a masculinity thing?
I would say from a male perspective, that's probably the biggest part of it, is that, you know, like there's a fantasy involved. And societally speaking, it's not out of the realm of impossibility. It's common, it's normal, you don't bat an eyelash at it really. Whereas for men, it's and honestly, like I've been out at gay bars. And, you know, like, you have gay men, like, you know, just being catty, being like, oh yeah, he's bisexual. You know, like, he's, like, as opposed to, honey, just come out. And I've commented, and I've been like, why is that a thing? Like, why is it his responsibility to honor your preconceived notions of how he's supposed to live his life? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You know, and my big, I don't know, sentiment with this episode is that labels can be awesome in regards to identity, in regards to a safe haven, in regards to a sense of belonging, but they can also hurt. And it's each individual person's responsibility to define themselves as they see fit. And for a lot of them, no definition required. I'm me. And I'm excited to see a world, and again, I'm convinced that we're already well on our way there, where it gets to a point where it's just like, listen, bro, this is where I fit. This is where I fit on the spectrum. The end. All that needs to be said. This is where I fit on the spectrum. Every now and again, I'm down to hang out with a guy.
Yeah.
You know, my girlfri's cool with it too. You know, or
Instead of a label, we should just have a number.
but what?
Just a number. Where you fall on the spectrum.
Yeah, right. I'm like 6.2. But no, I think, like I said, that's where we're headed. That's what I wanted to comment on. I love, you know, watching TV, watching the CW, watching whatever network, and seeing poly relationships. Like, I'm watching Good Trouble on Freeform. It's a spin-off of The Fosters. If you haven't seen it, oh my god, it's my favorite.
You said a lot of words there that I've not heard.
Okay.
I don't know what the Fosters are. I don't know what Freeform is. And what was the other one?
It's called Good Trouble.
You lost me in that whole line of...
So the TV show that I'm watching currently is Good Trouble, and it's on Freeform, which is, I think, originally was ABC Family.
Okay.
And
Is it a channel or like a streaming service?
It's a channel.
Okay.
It's an actual channel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was originally ABC Family. Now it's Freeform. And I think it's when it was ABC Family that was
Just
a show.
how much TV I watch.
I know. I mean, I COVID. But also I'm a TV person. Like even when I'm working, that's actually how I get through so many shows because it's always something's always playing in the background.
Makes sense.
But yeah. Anyway, I'm totally gonna get off topic because I absolutely love both of these series. I love how they're done. I love how they're filmed. Everything. And there is a character on there who's bisexual. No one bats an eyelash at it. It's amazing. And then there's another character who, she has a boyfriend and she is working with a guy who's poly, amorous. So his girlfriend has another boyfriend and, you know, they've been flirting with each other and...
Yeah, the polyamorous thing, it's interesting.
It's not a real relationship.
Says who?
Me.
Okay, how so?
Because that defies the logic of a relationship.
From your perspective, I
That's
get
fine.
that.
That's just what I said.
I get
me,
that.
yeah.
No.
Continue.
No. You continue. I want to hear more.
There's nothing more there. That's just a statement.
The end.
Yeah.
I feel like in concept, the polyamorous relationship sounds great because you either get the attention of two or you can have the attention of none and know that that person's still being taken care of with their needs. Like, I don't want to do anything. Why don't you two hang out today?
Totally.
And like have my own alone day.
I guarantee you.
And
that.
you're not offending anybody because you're still getting attention.
Right.
Or you're like, now I'm in the mood. Now I have two to pick from. So.
Which I feel like that is what people take umbrage with.
I mean, come on.
Because it's true. Because it's true. Because it's 100% true. I feel like that's what people take umbrage with because let's be real. When it comes to relationships, for some reason, like especially with like gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, people automatically think of the bedroom. So when it comes to poly, people automatically think of the bedroom. And to me, I'm the kind of person like, there's nothing in your life that you're doing. Like, as long as you're not breaking laws, and as long as you're not hurting yourself or other people, what the hell do I care what you do?
What's the difference between a polyamorous relationship and an open relationship? You're still talking about people you just don't know. One you know when you have a relationship with somebody.
I mean
all these swingers and everything else. Why not just have a steady third person?
So like being in. Why are you
turning this a tricycle? Sorry.
Being like in a throuple versus being poly. I think it's because I haven't been in one. I have no idea, but from what I'm understanding, because I know a few people who are in them. I think the point is that you're basically in a relationship. However, in the confines of your relationship, you can pursue another relationship. So it's not one of those things where you're just out, you know, being open and hooking up with whoever you want to, whenever you want to. I feel like for you to bring in, or for you to pursue a relationship with another person, it would be like traditional dating rules apply. You know what I mean? Like you have your, like, if you're a guy and you have your girlfriend, or if you're a girl and you have your boyfriend, you know, you're out at work or at a party or whatever, you meet a guy, you start talking, whatever, you basically pursue them and like you go on dates, and it's like an actual genuine, you know, let's see how this goes kind of a thing, versus just like, oh, I'm gonna go out and hook up with whoever I want to whenever I want to. I mean, that's my understanding of it. But I feel I don't know if I was watching a show and someone said this, or if we talked about it in real. Actually, might have been Anthony or Buck who mentioned this the other night, but it was basically one of those things where, or maybe it was you, as long as there are rules involved.
That was me. Yes, as long as we were talking about open relationships, and somebody said that they don't believe in them. Somebody else is for them. Like, there was a few of us standing in the kitchen discussing it. And I said that as long as there's clear, defined rules, I'm for it. And I think those are the ones that work, as opposed to where it's just a we're open, but nobody really knows what the other person's doing.
Right.
And they're obviously doing very different things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that creates a lot of problems, tension. Maybe that one willingly doesn't want to know, or just doesn't know what the other one's doing. Then that's where you get a lot of problems. Where if it's with some boundaries set, I think that creates a better open relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all for, or I'm a huge believer that whatever kind of relationship you want, there are people out there who will vibe with it. If you want to be open, no strings attached, do your thing, I guarantee you can find someone, you can marry them. And you're both just in an open relationship. You're doing your thing, you're having a great time. For some there are rules, for some there aren't rules. I agree with you. I'm a child, and I like clear cut, concise, and a really great phrase that I love from therapy, counseling, relationship, counseling from that perspective is, it's up to you and your partner to define your relationship, no one else. No one else. And I was having a conversation with someone recently, and they were saying how they were, I think it was in regards to work. She's self-employed, and she rents out this space, and she was thinking about, switching locations, and, she was having a conversation with her cohorts, like peers, like who all do the same thing, and she was like, I'm thinking of switching locations. She's an esthetician, and she's like, I'm thinking about switching locations, and these are the reasons why. And they were like, well, hold on a second, I don't think that's a good idea. And she was like, and they were like, like for this reason, this reason, this reason. She's like, oh, that makes sense, I understand. However, that really won't apply because of A, B, C, and D. And then someone else chimed in, and they were like, no, I agree with her. I don't think this is a good idea. And then they were, giving reasons and whatnot. And she was like, oh, no, like, I understand, like, that makes sense. However, and then the third person chimes in, and all of a sudden, it's like a 3 or 4 against 1 scenario, and she's like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on right now? First of all, it's not your decision. Secondly, I was just looking for, we're having a chat, and we're discussing, and you're not hearing me. Like, I understand what you're saying. I value your opinion. It means a lot to me. You know what you're talking about. However, these rules, what you're saying, doesn't apply at the end of the day because I feel differently. But also, she was trying to explain, what her reasoning was behind it, and she felt like she was just, not being heard.
Nobody wanted to hear it.
And so when it comes to relationships, that's exactly how it is with everyone. You're trying to satisfy your mom, you're trying to satisfy your dad, you're trying to satisfy your siblings, you're trying to satisfy your friends, and it's like, they're not in your relationship. Only you are. Only you. And no one has to know. Again, as long as laws aren't being broken and no one's getting hurt, what's the problem? That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But again, I'm very vocal about being all for poly relationships. I think they're awesome. Well, the concept is, I'm all about living your truth, whatever that looks like. In case you didn't know.
I may have heard that before. Just somewhere.
That was the first time I've heard it. It's new to me.
Sorry,
I heard it somewhere. I don't know.
Take your time.
I agree with you if that is your thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who are strong believers in a monogamous relationship, I don't feel like they need to be pressured into other things.
Oh,
I feel like I've talked to many guys who strongly believe in a monogamous relationship, and that's what they want, and they almost feel pressured into having to be open to the possibility of an open relationship because they think that that's what everybody wants. And if that is your belief that you want a monogamous relationship, I think you should really find somebody that also wants a monogamous relationship. And don't be ashamed of that.
100%.
No.
100%. And if it's not working, you're getting that pressure, this isn't the right relationship for you.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get that you're being vocal about this. You've been very clear, but here's the thing. I'm being vocal about it too, and I want to be monogamous. And if that's the case, to me, that's the red flag for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but some people won't see that.
Oh.
They're so focused on trying to make something work and changing to make that person happy that they've now left their beliefs
Mhm.
in order to make that person happy.
Exactly. I was having a conversation with someone and they were in a relationship. I believe they were engaged, and the one partner wanted kids, and the other guy wasn't ready. He's like, I'm not ready yet. He's like, I'm launching this new business. I have a lot of stuff going on. I'm not ready for that. Like, I'm excited to have kids, but just not right now. And the other guy's like, no. Like, I want children, and like, I think we should talk about this. And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, what, like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't always be a, like, hands down, end of discussion, unless that's where you're at. If it's hands down, absolutely not, end of discussion, be vocal about that. Be very clear. With that said, act accordingly. Your partner's telling you that they're not on the same page with you. And I feel like, and you're absolutely right, like, that's where people get stuck. And that's where relationships fall apart. As soon as you have that conversation, no matter what it is, and your partner is being very clear about something in opposition to you, you need to reevaluate. It's in your best interest to, because if not, the cycle continues.
Yeah.
Before you know it, it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years. There's a lot of resentment. Both of you are miserable.
Yes.
Instead of just saying,
well, there's a sunken fallacy cost, right? I put in so many years with this relationship. Let's see if we can put another one and then another one. And then, like you said, you're 5, 10 years in, you're like, should have bailed at year 1.
what'd you call it?
Sunken cost?
Sunken fallacy cost?
Sunken cost fallacy. Like, you've put money into something,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, well, I've already put some money into it,
Mhm,
so much
mhm.
more money into it, just try to see it through,
Mhm.
and really you should have just abandoned it.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought I'd never heard that before. Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I mean, do not get me wrong. I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm not trying to judge or ostracize anyone. I'm just saying look at it logically. And I'm a victim of this. I did it to myself for years, on more than one occasion. Just pay attention. The whole, like, dating is a verb. It's what you do. We talk about this in the relationship episode, by the way. Check it out. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
On the word dating,
Mhm.
I've asked somebody one time, I was like, oh, are you dating anyone?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, yeah. I'm like, oh, who? They're like, oh, no, I'm going on dates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who? And they're like, oh, no, multiple, different people. So I'm like, so you're not dating anyone? They're like, yeah, no, I'm going on dates. I'm like, what?
And
it's a word that can be used very interchangeably, and it was a very fun, confusing conversation because
Mhm.
I thought he was saying he was seeing one particular person, going on dates with this person.
Mhm.
And he went, no, I'm going on different dates all the time. I'm
Mhm.
like, wait, what?
And as far as I'm concerned, he's using the term properly.
He is.
Because dating is a verb. It's what you do. It's
But
an
we ask
active
people,
thing.
are you dating anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, what we're trying to ask is, are you seeing one person exclusively
Mm-hmm.
to see if it'll work?
And-
And yeah,
yeah.
he meant, as you said, I'm dating dating people. Who? All these people.
Mm-hmm. Everybody. Everybody gets a date.
I'm like,
I think that is a deformity. The adopted use of the term dating, it implies, are you dating? I don't know how to finish that sentence, but I think you know what I mean.
yes.
Like it's an improper use of the term. Dating is what you do. I mentioned this in the episode as well, that I had a coworker who in her household, the rule was you can date whoever you want to, but nothing serious until the age of 25. And I think it's brilliant. I 100% believe in outliers.
How do you prevent something from becoming serious?
Therein lies the question.
That's what I thought when I first heard that from him. I was like,
I mean, you're through college, like you are graduated college. You're gonna tell somebody who now has finished college that they still can't have a serious relationship?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I think it clearly, I mean, from my perspective, it's a deterrent to avoid, because, and I think from her perspective, she's in her social circle with her, friends who have been in a relationship for 15, 20, 30 years, they never really dated anyone else, so they never really got an understanding of what else is out there, more or less. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, I found this really great guy, I need to try to make it work. And what people don't realize is trying to make it work means, what can I deny myself in order to honor this relationship? By the way, that's what that is. Whenever you hear try to make it work, it's what can I deny myself to stay in this relationship for as long as possible? And at the end of the day, like, can we go the distance?
It's like couples that are in couples therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still in the dating phase. And I'm like, or they're not married. The whole point of going on dates and being boyfriend girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever is to see if it will work.
Ding ding
If
ding.
you need couples therapy and you're not yet committed, then it clearly isn't going to
I
work.
have a question.
Ding ding ding. Hit
If
us.
you have a polyamorous with 4 people, do you all go to couples therapy? Or do you go like pairs? Or do you go like 3 at a time and then another at the third? Like,
It's more like a Survivor kind of thing, but you vote each other off.
You know, you both are so
I'm just so
hilarious.
confused. Like, I just wanted a girlfriend and then a wife and just one person. Like, when you have so many people going out, it's like you're spilling your energy all over the place, right? So it's cool that you have all this and it sounds good in like short term, but it's not good like long term. You either have like fun in the short term or like a good long term. It's up to you, but like
I disagree.
you can, but I'm just it's the strategy.
I think it's person specific. I think because
Well, if you're, let's use this and say you're in a 3-4-way relationship.
Let's just keep
You're
it right
assuming
now.
that all 4 people have issues with all 4 people, right? It's probably more likely that one person has an issue with another person, even in that group. It's not that you might have 3 people against one or 1-on-1, but I don't think that the whole relationship.
But that energy flow is going to go through the full. So if one person is connected to this person, that interaction will go into the other interaction.
Which is probably why there's not too many of these types of relationships.
Exactly.
You know me. I'm a huge believer that it's up to you to live your truth. And for some people, I think, I firmly believe that for some people it's just they can't do monogamy for whatever reason, or they'd rather not do monogamy.
What if
They're
you
scared.
met somebody, and this question is for both of you,
Mm-hmm.
you met somebody that you really fell for, and then you found out, or you knew, even if you knew along the way, that they had a relationship already,
Mm-hmm.
but you really fell for this person.
Mhm,
Would
mhm.
you continue in the 3-way thing? Or would you say, nope, even though I really, really, really like you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it because you already have somebody in your life?
Be honest and walk away. If it's meant to be, they'll come after you.
Okay. For me, I would. I think I would, absolutely. Especially if I knew beforehand. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This is different.
I have not done it in my life, and I think
Mhm.
it'd be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would approach it with caution.
Mm-hmm.
Say, okay, let me see how I get along with this other person,
Mm-hmm.
and explore.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely been pursued a couple of times by couples. The first one was a hard pass. Just the end. However, there's actually another couple that never actually came out. I'm coming after you, don't you worry. There was another couple who they never actually came out and said anything, but I feel like I was being pursued, if nothing else, by one of them for sure, if not both, or maybe like the other one was okay with it. Nothing was ever said, so I never acted on it because in the event that I'm wrong, then I'm just that guy. I'm just very self-impressed, but yeah, I mean, it also depends on where I'm at. You know what I mean? If I have 3 thoughts in my head. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like it's how you know you're alive. When you find yourself in a situation that's like, whoa, never thought I'd end up here, or like, this is really challenging, or this is difficult. Like, you know, there are 2 phrases that I've claimed or reclaimed, or, you know, whatever. It's being emotional and, what's the other one? Being sensitive. Neither of those are a bad thing. It's how you know you're alive.
Yeah.
Emotions exist to tell you how you feel. We need to stop
But
it.
don't be too sensitive.
This guy. Well, so, but with that said, I do believe that there's a point. I feel like, so without getting too far off topic, because we all know me, I feel like, to answer your question, yes, I would. I definitely would. But I also feel like I would approach it in the context of the situation. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you're already in a committed relationship. So, yeah, you know, I'm drawn to you. You're drawn to me. This is fun. We're really enjoying this. However, at the end of the day, I'm never going to forget that you're in a committed relationship already.
Yeah.
So I'm either going to be another committed separate relationship, but with all of that said, I mean, there's another person involved. You can't ignore that.
You can't be committed if there's another person involved. You're not fucking committed if there's another person involved. You can't call it a committed relationship.
I disagree. I completely disagree with that. 1000%. You can be committed to two people. Like you can get married to multiple people and be happy.
This is so confusing.
I feel like the only thing holding people back from that is their understanding of it. Especially if it's one of those things where if you genuinely think you could be happy with multiple partners, and you find multiple partners who are willing to embark on this journey with you, as long as there's clear communication.
Communication is key.
Key to everything.
Yes.
Everything, monogamous or otherwise. You know, it's up to you and your partner to define it. I think the only thing holding you back is your belief system.
In the short film we just watched, a lot of the problems arose in that film from lack of communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
One didn't want to talk about his feelings towards the other.
Mm-hmm.
So when something happened, now you have a fallout. And then the other one doesn't want to talk about how he just felt.
Mm-hmm.
So he storms out.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have nobody communicating anything.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, of course in a movie it ends well.
Right.
In real life, most of that stuff does not end well.
Absolutely not.
So, yeah.
And what the craziest part of that film, like the most dense part of it for me, is when he's laying there afterwards. And the camera's just on him for like 10, 15 seconds, and he doesn't move. Doesn't move at all. And then the camera turns and his eyes are open, and he's just processing everything that just happened. And then you see the struggle in him to just button his pants, fasten his belt.
Accept what happened.
And then just push himself up, and like it's painful to watch. But I feel like what's weighing him down is his perception of it.
Oh, 100%.
You know, like my entire life, I've been told that this is wrong. This is shameful.
Well, you have two parts there. There's obviously the part where I can't believe I let a guy do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's I didn't want him to touch me,
Mm-hmm.
and he took it too far.
Mm-hmm.
So there's personal space that was violated.
Right.
So
Right.
even
Right.
if you remove the social norms of things, even if he was gay, if you don't want somebody to touch you, that
Mhm.
person should not take it that far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember either of the actors' names, but the one should not have taken it as far as he did,
Mm-hmm.
even if they were both
Mhm.
gay. Because in the end, he would have still felt violated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part wasn't really acknowledged in the film.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
I think consent is definitely the name of the game today, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, consent is everything. I think that I'm all about nonverbal cues and, you know, just reading the body language and whatnot. I think, with that said, I think he did it right. I think he kind of like, you know, felt the situation and he started to lean in and then he stopped. And then he leaned in with like slow enough for him to stop him.
Yes, he definitely. I noticed that in the film. He did release his hands, and he was not, you know, doing anything to where the guy could not fight back.
Right.
But you also are not taking into account sometimes when people are being assaulted in a way, they don't feel like they're empowered enough to get out of the
You're
situation.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And they kind of go into a paralyzed mode. So just because they didn't fight back
You're
doesn't mean
absolutely
that they didn't want it.
See, I don't think he was assaulted. In case I didn't mention, it's PRORA is the short film that we just watched. There was a lot of hesitation involved. And
So I guess what you took out of it was different from what I took out of it. I took out of it more, it was not consensual more than anything.
it was not consensual.
You took out of it more that it was a person coming to terms with sexual identity with what society says I should do as opposed to what I just did.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it more as you just touched somebody that didn't want to be touched
Mm-hmm.
in a way that they did not want you to touch them.
See, I think he was what I saw was conflict the entire time, in the sense of when he kissed him the first time and his brow furrowed, he was like, you weren't freaked out by that, or you didn't react the way that I thought you could have, like you're okay with this. And again, like, I feel like he proceeded slowly, like it was kind of like let me just be really, really, really gentle, really, really playful. And it was actually the other guy who took his shirt off. I don't know if you noticed that part.
I thought that, and I was like, okay, maybe.
So what I think happened was he was just shocked. He shocked himself. He was like, why am I okay with this? And it was almost one of those things where it was like, I don't want him to stop. That's what I saw. And I think that was accented by the fact that, again, he proceeded with caution. He proceeded slowly. It was, do you know what I mean?
I would say that that's like a female who is raped and achieves an orgasm being told, well, you must have enjoyed it because you orgasmed.
Oh, he just went there.
Oh my
So
God.
just because he came to terms with what, and accepted what happened and was not mad at his friend and kind of was not fighting it off doesn't mean that he's still...
I actually agree with your point, except for the.
I mean...
There's a touchy subject to say.
It is a
about
touchy.
That is.
If I
That's-
jumped and started
that was so intense.
and you came, I'd be like, you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, yeah, I got off, but no, I didn't want you to touch me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's a very touchy subject, and I don't know. It's a part that I think that was neglected in the film a little bit.
I mean,
And they're just different perceptions of the same
yeah,
film.
yeah, absolutely. I was a little triggered by that. I was so triggered by you saying that. I'm like, that was interesting.
So, and to me, I would say that, you wanted him to enjoy it because it makes you feel good about the movie. And I'm sitting there thinking,
Oh no.
touch him.
Like I said, he was downtrodden at the end.
yeah.
He was not
out of
okay.
position.
He was not okay with himself at all. What I love about it is this exact discussion. It's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And I was, like I said, I was amazed. I again, very big on nonverbal cues. It's a huge part of why I think I'm a great conversationalist. But I felt like he was surprised. And I felt like there was a conflict going on in him the entire time. Not to say, to say, should I stop this or should I not? But I don't.
I think that internal conflict probably happens a lot more with young men and women than we want to admit, especially men. They don't want to admit that they saw somebody and they're like, oh, he's kind of hot. Oh, I can't think that. And then continue on more in reality, because as we discussed, they're not completely on one end of the spectrum.
Right.
Admitting somebody is attractive that is of the same gender is so frowned upon for men. That,
I think I mean, come full circle, again, what I loved about it and what I loved about watching it before this was that I feel like this is exactly the ultimate topic of discussion. If we lived in a society where where it wasn't an abomination for a man to interact sexually with another man, I don't think it would have been that traumatic. Do you know what I mean? I think it was one of those things, again, where it was like, no, like, I've been told my entire life this isn't alright. I've been told, like, my entire life, I don't want to be a fag, I don't want to be a sissy, like, I don't want to be, labeled queer with negative connotation attached to it. That's what I took out of it.
There's also a piece of the film where it's a French film.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a little bit different cultural norms as well.
Yes, very much so.
So I wonder how that plays into the film.
I'm curious too. I get the impression that like France is similar to Italy and Spain in that regard. I'm very ignorant about this, don't quote me. But I get the impression that just sexually they're a lot more free. You know what I mean? Like there aren't nearly as many labels.
You don't
I'm
think there's?
Italian. No.
Have you been, did you grow up in Italy for a
No,
bit?
but I have no comment on this, but I don't think it's like that. I mean, maybe underground, but like within the culture, no.
I don't know. Comment below, please. Well, I'm curious for sure.
I'm sure there's a study that has been done where we can find this kind of
Just
information.
Google gay Italians.
But however, with
Careful what you find.
wait, what did you say?
He's Googling gay Italians.
Yeah,
Just
seriously.
don't click on
be
images.
very careful what you find. Yeah. Proceed with caution.
Turn on the
I mean,
search filter or something.
and with all of that said, for that exact reason, like I feel like I feel like dates have gone so awkward. Not consistently, but like there have been moments where, I'm very big on asking for consent with anything. Like, I'll ask, can I kiss you? Do you know what I mean? Versus just like reading the signs, leaning in, simply because of that exact reason. Like, I don't ever want to make anyone uncomfortable. That's like my biggest thing. Like,
If the person's truly into you, eventually you'll get it.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
What if that was a woman on the ground? How am I seeing this different?
That's a very good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
If it was
if it
a guy that pinned down a girl, they had sex, and she didn't fight it,
if it was a woman on the ground, yeah. I also feel like
do you think that
If
she
you-
was coming to terms with something, or do you think that it was non-consensual sex, and that's why she was in the fetal position, curled up, putting her clothes back?
non-consensual sex.
Yeah.
So why is it
For
because
sure.
it's two guys? Did you feel? So my point was always I interpreted it as he just had unconsensual sex,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what bothered him the
I know, I'm
most.
so fascinated by that. Because it never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind. Never once. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, I wasn't, I don't even know if this is necessary to say, like, I was just an observer, and that's what I observed. I observed, because remember when I also asked you, when they were on the beach and they were talking about sex and stuff like that, like nonchalantly, remember what I said? Like, I asked, like, do you think he knows now?
I didn't think he did. He had a hunch that his friend was acting weird that day, per one of his questions earlier in the day. But it didn't sound like he knew, or did not appear as if he knew, that his friend had a crush on him. So there's also that shock. Oh, well, this is the kind of friendship I have.
Yeah. I'll watch it again because like I said, the last time I saw it was with you when we recorded the audio. The
Yeah,
first
that
time.
was
So that was like
a year ago? It's over
yeah,
a year ago.
literally. So I'll definitely watch it again and see. But the first time I saw it, that was the impression that I got, that he knew.
You're gonna have to include the link to the video now.
Absolutely.
Because people are gonna be like, what are they talking
Absolutely, 100%. But yeah, I remember the first time I watched it, I got the impression that he knew, and he was flirting with the idea, and I got the impression that that's why he started bringing it up on the beach, and so then they go into the building, and he's being super clear about how uncomfortable he is. He's like, "This is a Nazi building. I don't want to be here. Let's get out." And he's like basically just like making a joke about it, and he's like marching back and forth, and he's like, you know,
Well,
like,
yeah, because the one is a German
correct,
kid who clearly is ashamed of his his heritage, his past.
absolutely,
Not his in particular, but
absolutely,
so he's ashamed of it, and he probably carries more emotions with what was happening in that scene than the French guy that just took it as a joke. And to him, it wasn't a big deal. He didn't grow up with it.
And I also feel like I didn't get the impression that he was being accosted, because if that was the case, he could have reacted the way that he did afterwards, beforehand. He could have stopped it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was really aggressive about it. And he clearly overpowered the other one. Do you know? And like,
Yeah, but I disagree. I don't think that the victim's mind is always in a place to overpower the...
very true. Very
That would have
true.
been a very haunting scene if it was a woman that was laying there at the end.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Extreme. I was just running through that, and especially like, women will
Absolutely.
test you like that and bring you into buildings and stuff and like test you and do what he was doing. And like I just got like a picture of like
Why
that
would-
being a woman.
Why would a woman test that?
Well, that's just like the progression. Like if that was to be shot with a woman, it would be very natural. But that scene would have been
The
like
playfulness
triggered
that-
the whole world if that was
It would have been a rape. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I didn't get that impression at all. Like they said, I think he was really shocked at how comfortable he was. Well, I don't know.
Maybe he
We'll
was
see.
comfortable with it.
We'll see.
And maybe that was part of it.
Mhm.
But in the end, it still seemed like he wanted to be friends with this guy.
Most definitely. That's
You
definitely
know,
how it
he
started
wanted
out.
to mend that friendship.
Yeah.
But there was definitely not a romantic interest at the end. It's not like they
Mhm.
walked off to the sunset holding hands.
True as well.
So I think he was just trying to say, I forgive you and I accept who you are, but this is not going that way.
I'm the kind of person, like, the way that my empathy works is no matter what the situation is, there's something that you could apply it to in your life to offer you perspective. No matter what it is.
Yeah.
Just open your mind, put your thinking cap on, and just think for a second and be like, if I were this person and I were in this situation and I presented them with this, or I was presented with this, how would I respond? And more times than not, I'm like, that makes sense. I don't blame them for how they reacted just now. And it's not, I'm a huge believer that you should be the center. You unequivocally are the center of your universe. Like your universe, your world, your reality, your piece of the globe revolves around you. It has to. It has to. But remember, there are other people here too. Just like you're, like, that's how I feel about you.
You are not the center of the universe, you're just the center of your own universe.
Exactly. I'm not the center of yours.
No.
I'm not the center of yours. I want to honor that. And if I can't, then I should go back to the drawing board and figure it out. You know, that's on you, not on anyone else. Like, you're responsible for your happiness as well as how you pursue that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I love that you asked that. It took me a while. What I should have said was, I need a minute.
You had to talk your way through it.
I did.
Sometimes we have a thought and it's a formed thought in our head, but we have not voiced it yet. And in order to voice it, we kind of have to ramble on quite a bit.
Right.
Then we go back and edit it and be like, oh, this is what I was trying to say.
Yes.
So I had to get there.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming today, Jonathan. This was awesome. You're the perfect person for this.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to read the comments.
Absolutely. And your last name is Otero?
Yes. Otero.
Otero. Oh, I knew that. I was just nervous. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, you've been watching New Society. I'm your host, Carlo Jean-Michel. As always, Jordan Peterson. And thank you so much to our special guest today, Jonathan Otero. See you guys soon.